How much do we know about President Trump's inner circle, and are there fingerprints all over the president's agenda? Let's discuss now. Michael Bender, the White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, who profiles Steve Bannon, joins me, and also Molly Ball, political writer for The Atlantic, who interviewed Kellyanne Conway. So great to have both of you on. Good evening, Michael. You first. You just interviewed Steve Bannon for your piece in the Wall Street Journal. Do you think Breitbart is helping Steve Bannon push his White House agenda?
Sure. Yeah, of course. I mean, Breitbart is built in Steve Bannon's image. I don't know how much Steve is involved in the coverage anymore. He says he's not. You know, there's been reports of him talking to reporters after stories. But listen, these are people that Steve Bannon hired for a specific reason, and they're still in place doing the job he hired them to do. So sure, yeah. I mean, I think largely they're helping push the Trump agenda. I do think that their sort of attacks on Paul Ryan and Reince Priebus aren't necessarily helpful to Steve. You know, I think Steve likes having Reince Priebus in as chief of staff in the White House. I think he does have a lot of respect for him, and what Reince brings to the table.
So what did you learn about Bannon, though?
Well, my reporting on the story was focused on his upbringing and his father, you know, I joked on Twitter today that the story essentially confirmed that Steve Bannon was born of human parents, right? I mean, this is the guy that's been characterized as the angel of death on Saturday Night Live. Right. He was in a New Yorker cartoon as sort of like knocking the devil off of Trump's shoulder and saying, "I'll take it from here." You know, it's a little more complex than that. It's a little more nuanced. So I spent some time in Richmond with Steve's dad. He's 95 years old. This is a guy who spent 50 years working for AT&T with a high school education. His father spent 48 years at the same company. And what was interesting to me was that you know, Steve very much believes in this "Make America Great" idea, right? This sort of call back to an era of the 1950s, and kind of the stability of his dad's adult life that Steve himself has never had, right? I mean, Steve was in the Navy, he was at Goldman, he was at Harvard, he ran Biosphere 2, he dabbled in penny stocks, he was a Hollywood producer, he ran Breitbart. So you know, a little more chaotic and a little bit more dramatic than his dad's life, but a lot of the economic nationalism that Steve pushes came from his upbringing in Richmond, came from you know, the white working class neighborhood he grew up in.
I want to bring Molly in now because you spoke with Steve Bannon. This is for your piece on Kellyanne Conway, by the way, in The Atlantic. And Bannon credits Kellyanne Conway for saving then-candidate Trump after the release of that infamous Access Hollywood tape. And here's what you write in part. You say, quote, Bannon says it was Conway's calm presence that led both wavering women and conservative voters to think, if she can still support Trump, I can too. If Kellyanne had not been there when the firestorm hit, I don't know if we would have made it, he told me. So you say that she was also behind the push for white working class voters. Is Kellyanne Conway why Donald Trump is president, you think?
You know, I think there's a very good case to be made that he would not have won the election were it not for her. I mean, she was his campaign manager for one thing, at least in that final stretch, the third person to run his campaign. But she also, crucially, was part of the intellectual infrastructure of forming the Trump sort of populist agenda, particularly on immigration. For 20 years, Kellyanne Conway has been outside the mainstream of the Republican consultant class, arguing that Republicans need to talk more about immigration and talk about it as a working people's issue. She has been producing polls for a lot of the immigration restriction groups on the right that a lot of the sort of Republican establishment would not talk to or considered fringe, but she really believed in this, and Bannon told me that he was making a cabal a few years ago when he was running Breitbart. He described it as a cabal composed of himself, Jeff Sessions, Steve Miller, and Kellyanne Conway, who really believed there was an alternative to the GOP autopsy view that you had to pass immigration reform. There was another way entirely, and Trump became the vessel for that view, that you could win over, you could galvanize a new segment of the white working class electorate, the same guys Mike is talking about that Steve Bannon is rooted in as well, that you could get those people to vote by talking particularly about the immigration
But
issue.
one wonders now if she is hurting not the campaign but the administration, because she makes headlines with these things. You said the word alternative, and the first thing that came to my head was alternative facts. And you know the whole microwave thing. Sean Spicer responded to that today. Watch this.
Does the president believe that he was surveilled through microwaves and televisions?
I'm not going to. I will just say the president has tweeted about this. He's pretty clear that he believes that there was surveillance that was conducted during the 2016 election. And we're going to wait for the conclusion of that. I think there's pretty sound evidence that that the microwave is not a sound way of surveilling someone, and I think that has been cleaned up. It was made in jest, so I think we can put that to rest.
Okay, he said it was made in jest. She was pretty serious when she said it didn't seem like it was a joke at all. But what do you think? They've been controversial. It doesn't seem to have hurt her within the administration, but certainly outside of the administration. What do you think?
Well, it's funny, and there seems to be a new one of these every day, right? She has this incredible ability to get under people's skin, to create these viral moments, whether it's an interview, alternative facts, the Bowling Green massacre, the controversy about Ivanka Trump's fashion line, and now this microwave thing. She's always sort of making people's heads explode. I think she actually enjoys sort of trolling people, much in the way that Trump himself does, and they have a lot of personality characteristics in common. To a lot of Trump's supporters, she is kind of a folk hero. She's a celebrity. She is sort of a mascot for what he represents, and her closeness to the president is real. I don't see her going anywhere. But at the same time, she has this incredible ability to infuriate people on the other side, and there's this fascination with her where I think even a lot of liberals who absolutely deplore her and what she represents still sort of can't take their eyes off of her.
I appreciate your writing for The Atlantic. I appreciate, Michael, you for your stuff in the Wall Street Journal. I wish we had more time. I'll have you both back on. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.